Good day, everyone. Welcome to God's Grace on Thee. Today is Monday. It is March 24th of 2025. It is now 10:53 a.m. and it is a gorgeous day. It's beautiful, sunny. It is 58 degrees and our high today will be 72. And then it's going to lead us into the high 70s. So we are experiencing our beautiful spring seasons. Okay, today I want to cover something a little different. I think it's something we all need to hear. And my purpose is to bring you truth. Does anyone really know truth? We think we do because we share information. But who initiates the first as it picks up speed and travels throughout the world? Who generates that? Our purpose is to transpire others to see truth. How do we do that? By going back to your creative Father, your creative source. In the Bible, they referred to him as I am. I am all things. And we are told that we are born in the image of the Creator. And he is not of this world. He is of the spiritual world, which makes us same. So my intent by bringing you truth is to also bring your creator source into play. Because by forgetting where we came from, we get lost in Earth's chaos. Let's begin. This is coming from the Phoenix Project. And this is New Year's Eve. And what exactly does that mean to you? I find that a holiday really means, to most of you, a day of postponement, of King's X of sorts, a day to just be. Withdraw from clear and present danger and pretend that there's nothing to be done save enjoy selves for a few brief hours of non-thought processing. Well, the adversary works twice as hard on your holidays while you least expect it. And millions of people will crowd while the adversary works twice as hard on your holidays while you least expect it. And millions of people will crowd into, for instance, New York Times Square. To do what? To drink and watch a lighted ball mark off your hours onto what? Am I just a wet blanket of sorts who comes to spoil your fun and games? Perhaps. Mostly, I am disliked because I remind you of responsibility, good behavior suggestions, love thy neighbor, and whatever else seems to be appropriate. What you don't realize, however, is that I am not too unpopular, even with what you would consider my worst enemies. And they are quite confident that goodness shall not simply walk in and have you listen, and then you will just awaken in a wondrously, purely cleansed world. If you did so, you would not sustain it in that manner of purification. How would I be foolish enough to expect many to listen? Much the less, how would I expect such a miracle on New Year's Day that anyone would toss off Satan in preference of God? After all, New Year's Eve brings the hour of the Grim Reaper, and therefore the representative symbol of the new year, and a newborn babe just as miserable. For how many newborn babes have you seen who stand forth in miracle magician fashion and wield a wand and make the world a better place. At best, have a new idea for moving forward. And at worst, you abort the new babe trying to establish a better world. Either way you do it, with great celebration and champagne and brain-dumbing antics, so be it. We are left to deal with that which remains and must do so under the most challenging of circumstances of show me, prove it, and or simply get out of my face and my space. I can promise you this day that with a storm ready to hit the west coast of the U.S., and several have already done so this month, the topic for today in that area of Los Angeles is, indeed, will it rain on the Rose Parade? God, please don't let it rain on the Rose Parade, is the hue and cry. Why? What if there is to be a 10.4 earthquake tomorrow morning at 6:32 or so a.m. in Los Angeles, with an epicenter at Pasadena? Would you not then be glad you stayed home because it rained on the parade? Everything is perception and perspective. Floods. Along those lines, I can only point out that in Europe there are storms and cold so intense as to overshadow anything in the U.S., and you don't even give more than a few seconds attention or none at all. And you who expect rain right here, what have you done about shoring up and preparation in advance? Oh, you'll do that right after the parade and the ball game. Oh, you'll do that right after the parade and the ball game? Are you prepared for a flood? Oh, I see. You live on a hill and don't need to worry. Oh, what about the earthquake that may well come with the flood? Houses wash off in mudslides as mountains come down, and so too do they shake, rattle, and roll off hillocks. So. But you live in somebody else's condo? So be it. Go forth and eat, drink, and make merry, or whatever it is you are set about doing. The world will go on without you. And to the rest of you, let us remind you of the winter months, and perhaps you might take a rain check around your personal setting. Flooding can occur within mere minutes, or certainly within hours, of excessive rainfall, a dam or levee failure, or a sudden release of water held by an ice jam, as in more northern areas, as is happening today. And if your home and family are at risk of flooding, here's a little checklist to help prepare, just in case. Do you know the evacuation routes in your area? Remember, for instance, that in Pasadena, California, there are several main thoroughways closed for your parade. Are your roofs, gutters, and downspouts cleared? Or did you leave that for the first of the year while you put on Christmas lights and trees and set forth your parties? And have you checked trap valves to prevent flood water backing up into your drain? And can you secure outdoor furniture and other items that can float away or get in the way of emergency personnel? And do you have flood fighting tools such as sandbags and pails ready? Do you have available some lighting equipment so you can see if the power goes down and or it is nighttime and you have to work outside? Do you have a sump pump? Do you have a backup power supply? In the Northwest, as we write, hundreds of thousands of people are without power, and this renders forced air furnaces useless, electric devices useless, and you can check out the other inconveniences abounding in sub-freezing temperatures. Do you have good pictures to document any losses after the flood? This is a good idea, even if there is no flood, because robberies will increase with the increasing unrest and poverty upcoming in your lives. And does your family know what to do in case of a flood? Most will just run to mommy and daddy, you, and expect you to produce all these security things at the blink of their eyes. They will expect you to feed them, clothe them, and warm their little bodies in comfort, where there is nowhere to run and no place to hide. But you are waiting for the summer floods? I see. Unfortunately, however, flooding is so much the more prevalent in wintertime. Do you even know what to do after a flood? Well, just in case you do not, let us cover just a handful of good ideas. Inspect that home or building carefully before you re-enter it. Foundations can be wiped out. Snakes may well become live-in guests, and thus and so. And take photos or make videotapes of damaged property and collect inventory records. Therefore, you need to have remembered to take your cameras and make an inventory. Do not use gas or electrical utilities until they have been carefully checked out. And do what you can to make temporary repair and avoid further damages, and above all, check for mudslide possibilities, as runoff above you may well be giving way. And review your insurance coverage and notify your insurance agent promptly. If you have no insurance and a lot of damage, pray for another holiday, or save some of your drugs, alcohol, or whatever to ease your pain and misery. Air the dwelling thoroughly to remove foul odors or escaped gas, and do this before lighting matches or using electric utilities. And get the bucket or pump and bail out flooded areas, or you can lose your entire building foundation and have to replace walls. Also, diseases and mold flourish in wet basements or carpets, even in cold weather. And worse yet, to survive, these nasties will literally jump onto your nice warm body. These are just a few things which will be ever so much more annoying in the sub-freezing temperatures and lack of evaporation qualities of a desert. Let us assume the flood's over and the sun is once again in the heavens doing its nice thing. Scrub off all that woodwork as soon as possible and get those walls drying. And certainly get anything out of standing water. Use a stiff brush on that woodwork, even if it takes off the paint, because the effort you take early on will save you years of mold damage. And get those nice luxury carpets up and off the floor immediately. And let that air circulate around the items, especially the rugs and carpets, to salvage perhaps the carpets and the flooring. Dry metal objects, including guns and electric motors and home appliances, carefully, and rub with oil of some kind to prevent corrosion and rusting. Furthermore, you do not want to use wet electric anything. And this is especially true if your floors are wet. So review your family disaster plan. Oops, what plan? Oops, doubled. And now for you in earthquake land. Don't say that one disaster at a time is enough to think about, because the old New World Order is not going to just dump one little thing on your little bodies. You are set for many things at one time to keep you busy, not noticing what they are doing otherwise. And these disasters get you moving and dancing to their drummers. The biggie will be diseases and famine accompanying any disaster. But for the fun of it, this New Year's Eve, let us look at a bit of a checklist for earthquake preparations. Now, is your house frame securely bolted to the foundation? And do you even know what this statement means? And, again, that's the problem of the landlord. You are the one in the house? Do you have chimneys, roofs, walls all checked out for stability? And have you made sure things are well latched and stable? And are cabinets, bookcases, and mirrors secured? Wall studs, are they attached to walls so they don't topple on your sleeping bodies? And do your cabinets all have secure locks and closures? In the vibrations accompanying even small shakers, the cabinets and locked doors will open. Is your gas or electric water heater strapped securely to the walls? And are your hazardous or flammable materials stored safely? Remember that in the vibrations things move around, and oily rags can move right up to the flame of a water heater. Are you prepared to be self-sufficient? Food, water, survival kit for at least a minimum of 3 days? This is truly not enough time if the shaker hits with any other type of problem and or is a larger widespread disruption in normal activities. So please, make that 10 days of rations and water and get some good hiking shoes out and available, along with warm clothes and coats at the front area to be grabbed in the time of necessity. Sleeping bags for each family member will be the blessing of your days to come in any type of trouble. And extra ones with some free tarps will be even more beneficial in so many ways. You can't perceive them now. Biggie, does your family know what to do in an earthquake? Well, what about an earthquake and a flood at the same time in winter? Do you know what to tell them to do? So be it. The aftermath, if there is anything still standing. Well, let us suppose you are lucky and there is still a standing building which houses you and your family. Now, after the tremors stop, vacate the premises immediately until it is safe to return. This means stay clear of possible falling debris or walls and pray for no tornadoes or flooding, which pushes mudslides or flying debris onto you. Immediately as possible, look for and eliminate fire hazards, which can certainly cause massive damage, if not larger explosions, which are destructive to body and building. And again, take pictures to record damage before you clean up or make repairs. And check carefully your building for cracks and structural damage, including the roof, chimney, and foundation. Move valuables to a safe location if you have one remaining, and try to get what is most valuable into a weatherproof area. You will have to take note that almost always following major earth shifts, there will be shortly following some kind of inclement and pitiless weather. And if you have been good little boys and girls, you will have valuable papers, including insurance records, where you can get at them with copies in at least one separate location. Review the coverage. Be prepared to report damages as quickly as is possible. Insurance companies go out of business in major disasters, and I believe Florida is experiencing that now. Collect inventory records, appraisals, and photographic records to help document losses. And use licensed professionals to conduct inspections and repair your home, or you may find no insurance coverage available, and worse, no assistance forthcoming. Check out what failed, and if everything failed, then you have one problem. But if only a few failures or losses are present, check them out and make sure in repairing them that you fix them securely. If you have one flood in an area or one earthquake, it is possible to have many, many more. Review your family disaster plan, oops again, and see how you can help to improve disaster planning in your community. And what about those days of wine and roses? Do you have some stashed emergency supplies to get you through a few days of terror displacement? Other faces in other places. Now, I know that you in Kansas would certainly rather have me talk about bad weather and tornadoes wherein you know you are in a storm setting. However, don't you see that it matters not what the disaster? You have to be prepared. So what is there about disasters that causes people to pay attention and remember? Simply that. They are memorable for one reason or another. Nobody remembers that which has no meaning. A 2-point shaker in an earthquake country is usually of no note at all. But a 10-point rock and roller in a flood is going to be long remembered. Check out Pompeii after the big one, the volcanic explosion. And also ponder a minute the possibility of rising water in such as Hawaii, where you only have a possibility of a few feet of water inundating everything in living areas. So what? Well, if the high ground is in shaking, rattling, and rolling in active volcanic eruption or earthquaking, you got problems, local residents. Is this my annual and miserable doom and gloom lecture? I wish it would be worthy of any time and yours, but alas, I expect little, for you will attend little. Until after the holidays, of course. Then you'll go forth and announce that if you make it through, God is good. And if you receive great damages through your own carelessness, it will be blamed on God for being bad to you. Unless, of course, no one remains to tell on God. Now I can example even more clearly. If no one remained alive to tattle on the Nazis, would you know about the Holocausting? How interesting a concept. Well, how did those survivors survive to now number more in taking reparations than were incarcerated? And were they all Jews? Couldn't have been. There were not that many Jewish people in Europe at the time. Does this lessen the terror and horror? No. It simply means things could not have happened as in now, and by law in many countries demanded that you accept without questioning fact or truth. But what of holocausting or destruction by fire? Well, that is a whole other lesson, in especially areas where fires are the prevailing disaster bearer. But I believe you get my point. If you are prepared for any contingency, you stand a lot better chance of surviving. And by the way, it is far better to live modestly in all instances, because looters choose better theft items if you have egotistically advertised your big deal possessions. So who is going to steal an old Plymouth if there's a new Lexus with keys right next to it? And it has a full gas tank to make a sure exit? The most massive killer of mankind, bar none, is ego. Now God's hosts are going to again speak of things worldly, such as banking and banks. Banksters and safe deposit boxes? Yes, indeed. In earthquake country, just where do you keep your assets handy? Good. Not so good? You need emergency funds and liquid assets. But you need to store your assets long term in another area that's not prone to dumping your things into the sea, under the mud, underwater, and or burned up. If you purchase gold, even, put it in Iron Mountain and not long in Southern California on the beautiful seashore, does this guarantee security? No. But it is reasonable that it might be more secure. And further, if you are able to have someone hold assets and borrow against them, you have even more ideal circumstances of avoiding confiscation of precious things by a government in worse financial shape than you are. They just take, citizens, and they take from you. And they are lastly going to take from their own selves. The banks using the resource you stored for collateral, for loans and other goodies. That is their collateral and your security. But they have to leave us something, go the blind mice in their chanting. No, they do not, and they do not plan to leave you anything. It is going to be so on the day after tomorrow that many of you readers will be wishing you had helped us With those funds, you are now going to give the master whip wielder in the form of taxes. And while you could have served that which is in your own security and assistance, do you really think the government slave master is going to give you a damn about you when the full intent is to strip you of everything? There is not enough money in the world to pay off those blackmailers. Now, the day after tomorrow, you will shake your head and wonder at your ill-advised receivings. You could have offered it, those tax liabilities and funds, to a church or something, and even borrowed it back if needed along the way. And you would have put it to work instead of feeding the dragons. Oh well, too late, smart. Oh, I see, you aren't sure you can trust your brother? Good thought. But when you refuse to trust God, you err. But how can you know God? Easy. The New World Order in 1997. This is the big year for the New World Order transitioning. The Plan 2000 is to be a working reality by year 2000. That means there is only a short while to gain control over everything and everyone. This long arm is going to reach around your globe in every direction. And it becomes more and more inevitable, and total enforcement has to be begun now, so that the wars which are brought forth because of the massive power plays must be moved through, and order restored to some level of global control. And you have at best 1997, 1998, and 1999 to get to day 2000. A preschool child can count on 3 fingers your time remaining for fruition of the plan, as laid forth by these power mongers. Go back and read the protocols of any of the adversarial to God planners. This includes every godless faction, for they always lay forth their manifestos, protocols, and enforcement laws. And some nations and peoples will not sit still for this destruction to come upon them, as will you who have become servants to the liars, the cheats, and the enforcers. Do you have to give up life and limb? No. You can utilize that which is offered by these very adversaries as to being under their own laws, which will even offer you their support. If you are not trying to rule the world, but rather survive intact through troubled times of great tribulations and restrictions, you can do nicely within the laws of the land, and never so much as bend a law of God and universe. But will it be better than now? Say what? However, the answer is yes. Why? Because you're not being a threat to the big boys, but rather an island of stability in a land of their own chaos. People, however, in those exposed just to me and us, are making their final choices now. I am not going to help those who have actively worked to destroy everything that we work for and stand for, even if they be simply ignorant. And no one who knows or has been exposed to us and these writings has reason. Let us see if the mistress or the corrupt lawyer's messages will suffice when the going gets really rough. And you who believe the lies will go down with the liars. The losses will be yours, squarely earned and squarely judged. And you will not be longer welcome among us, period. If you clear your soul with God, you shall simply do so without us or our involvement. You who deliberately have served our adversaries will reap no rewards from our labors and our withstanding the assaults of those you have chosen to destroy us along with truth. Life is fragile at best, and some of the elderly people you have used to further and feather your nests will take departure soon. And how long will a Cherie live in frail health in an area destined for natural disasters? And what about beautiful Esther, whose very self has been so used by the ones who would lie, cheat, and steal? She is in her 90s of years. Do you believe that God does not know what is so? Do you think God is blind? And how many of you will make wrong choices because of your faulty, yes, faulty, opinions and ego strokings? Fine. These are your choices. But keep thee away from me, please. You who serve the dark brotherhood shall be stuck within the darkness, for light shall be shown upon your lies and incorrect perceptions. And how many will you take with you? How many souls will you drag within the walls of hell with you? How many witches will drag their victims into the traps with them? How many false preachers and teachers will pull their unsuspecting prey into the traps as well? And how many emissaries and agents who serve our own adversaries will rejoice when the big bang comes down? So be it. Again, your choice. And when it takes a corrupt court to back corrupt people, you have serious problems in society, friends. Trickery and lies. Trickery and lies may well be ruled by a corrupt judge in a corrupted courtroom to prevail. But it does not make justice so. It destroys justice for all who come afterward. And you and your children are that which comes after. So your own dark associates will come against you, and you will fall. For the very society protecting those ill-intended attorneys will help them get you. And some of you literally sold your soul and assets to these devil lawyers. When you sign powers of attorney for you don't even know what is taking place while you sleep on and on and on. And you either lie to us or you don't know. It cannot be both ways. It simply cannot be both ways. And you on that side might well be considering what you will do when you no longer have these unethical men to serve as your attorneys. Oh yes, indeed, these men are vulnerable and are aging, are in ill health, both Horton and Abbott. And if we get specifically focused on just these, Horton will defend your causes. Forget it, for if you don't have major war chests, those attached to Stephen Horn will not even sneeze on your behalf. Remember Jason Brent, good buddy? Start with a 10% retainer of all claimed funds, and he would devote the rest of his life to getting the Eckers. Why didn't you nice and quarrelsome buddies go for that one? He also stated that one of you had something like 2 million stated, and that is a lot of war chest at 10% down. Now add all the amounts falsely reported for all the rest, i.e., Fort Tootin et al., where you claim more millions. Boy, is this an expensive substitute lawyer or what? And who is going to take the ill-begotten tribe's cause? Oh, you say God is on our side? No, he is not on your side. Hold it in your heart. He is not on your side. Not now or ever. For your cause is unjust and wrong. Happy New Year. Well, who is of God? Everything and everyone. Therefore, just because you announce you opinionated something does not make it so. Just because you trusted someone who taught and told you false things does not excuse your ignorance. Righteousness does not need excuses. It stands on truth, and truth is sufficient. And sometimes, however, the lies have to be peeled away before the seed of truth is visible. And God has time. And you may well not have such a luxury. How nice of your lawyers that they only have truth from which to pull, and the opposition is only based on lies. Given long enough, my friends, the truth will be the beacon, left shining, like the lighthouse in the fog sends forth both bell and glow. And what about US&P, who has served up new lawsuits and demands incarceration of Dharma for writing on these subjects of light? What about it? Do you actually think that a judge tossing Doris Ecker into prison for truth will ultimately prevail? Of course not. But truth will shine ever the more brightly because of the shroud of evil intent thrust upon the hapless child at the hands of enforcers, simply more armed with weapons of force than she. And force and power are not the same thing. Power through force is a sick thing. It is also ungodly. And now for one last lesson this day on US&P and the cause of Walter Russell. If US&P actually be godly in intent as projected by President and CEO Melford Okilo, do you actually think they will stand by while their own greedy teammates incarcerate a child of light? We shall see, won't we? In the scene comes more of the sorting. Can one Doris Ecker stand the trauma? Of course, for she knows what other wondrous things are at work being molded by the hands of God, while she sustains through the hazards of the course. There is no real separation between the physical and the invisible when you know truth. The physical things become a simple inconvenience through which you accomplish no more and no less. The inconvenience itself becomes the best tool for accomplishment of the goal intended. So no body and no thing can stop the Dharma of Doris. And when you understand that fact, you will have become quite enlightened about self. And why do I focus on one Dharma and Doris? Because she personally serves me as secretary, and yes, unfortunately, as the whipping boy of the day. The enemy really wants to get me, but they cannot, can they? Now, however, the major big boy players are ready to trash the trashers, for they know better than to even wish, to get hacked on. The George Greens of the world are nothing, and I repeat it, they are nothing. They are not even worthy of the attention given them, and the big players give them no attention at all, in most instances. Why? Because they're just a botheration, as is rust within a mechanism needing to be restless. And in your physical world of lists, etc., I am listed very physically at level A6. That makes me a player of pretty high level consequence. And denying that by some George Green is not only silly but stupid. If even the U.S. President or head of the UN cannot access my security file, what do you think is the bigger bugger to the big boys? Myself or George Green nothing? Is this some ego trip for me to have such a high level of respectful management? Nope. Who needs ego when truth suffices? I have no reason to interfere with the bad boys playing with your minds and souls. That is your problem as individuals, playing at living while gambling away your very not fair. God is just. Fair has nothing to do with it. You decide what you consider fair. God is uncompromising on what is just and what is unjust. I believe I have spoiled your New Year's Eve sufficiently to move on, and may your time spent in some preparations for the days ahead help you, for it makes no difference at all to me. And may you walk ever with God so that you have stability and whatever comes to cross your pathway. Salut. And that came from the Phoenix Project, the words of advice for troubled times ahead. And that was brought in on December the 31st of 1996 by Hatton.